take from my bed to the floor. 5, 6, 7, 8. Will today be rough or will today be great? 9, 10, 11, 12. Lately I've been going through hell. 13, 14, 15, 16. Today's the day. Are you coming? Are you sick of being normal? I'm sick of being average. I'm sick of being mortal. I'm about to be a savage. I see a lot of things that I want, I will have them. I got a new mindset that I just established. I'll march through the cold with the nails on the pavement. I'll shovel that coal just to get out the basement. My story will be told, helping others make changes. I'll be so bold they will watch in amazement.
Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it. Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it.
Foot up on the pedal, pushing hard to the metal. Make a deal with the devil, channel rage through my vessel into something that is special. Energy of a rebel, going up a level. I just wanna be greatness, I could feel changes. Turn a new page and tie up my laces. I will be the bravest, break out of my cages. I will not be nameless, I will not be aimless.
Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it. Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Locked In Podcast. Give me 1 second. For some reason, I am not seeing it. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm not seeing us on Facebook. So I guess this is going to be a recurring thing where I'm going to have to relink our thing every few weeks. Give me 1 second. I just want to see. Newest activity. Let's see. Yeah, we're not live. So I'm going to post the YouTube stream link into the thing for people. I'm not quite sure what is going on, but we can't change it now because we're already live. But I've been doing this the last few weeks, checking, and it has been working for about a month, and now all of a sudden, all the destinations say that they're linked. And we're not.
You don't click.
Facebook just.
What happened last time?
Facebook is very
able to find it?
Guys, if you ever are thinking about doing a podcast, I would actually say possibly avoid Facebook if potentially, and I'm just being honest. Facebook is just very annoying. I don't know what the reasoning is behind why they
wishy-washy.
It's either that or it's an issue with the platform StreamYard. I don't know. But Facebook has always given us issues since the beginning. So we remembered when we were the first days of Facebook Live. It was actually before our YouTube days. The first 10 episodes were on Facebook, and Facebook would always give problems. This is going back 3 years ago. Whatever. If anybody reaches out, if anybody who's watching right now and you're watching on YouTube, I did put the link in the Facebook groups, and there's some people like to watch us through that. So hopefully people still tune in, even though it's not conveniently live streaming, but I did post the link so people can check us out. But anyway, guys, we're here. 158. That's the episode today. And we are talking about the importance of healthy relationship dynamics between children and parents. So it's interesting, guys. This I do want to make, George, we can both say this. I want to make the, obviously the disclaimer that we are obviously, George and I, not licensed psychologists, psychiatrists, or mental health professionals.
Yeah.
If you do indeed,
we're not licensed professionals.
If you do indeed need mental health or professional help, we do recommend that you seek out the assistance of a licensed professional. We always make that disclaimer. And as promised in our promotion, I am going to link some resources at the end of this episode.
Correct. We have something for you guys, but nobody here is really an expert. However, like you said, Steve, we have some friends that work in the medical field, as well as like people that we know that have worked in this kind of like a part of medicine, as interesting as it is. All medicine, all studying of of doctors that curing people is interesting, but this is like a little more on the sort of like the mental side. So yeah, we'll have some links for you guys there that of place and all that, that we got information from in the past. And we have people that have been in the podcast, like Steve said, that actually have worked in some of these places, or with some of the like more obviously professional people. But we're gonna go more about like experience, Steve. Again, today's topic is a pretty open one. And if I'm not mistaken, I feel like both of us and whoever may come here tonight will probably relate to this topic. I mean, it could be, I'm pretty sure, everybody got parents. And also the subtopic, which could be on the showrunner, but we don't have it right now. We just have a comment in live stream, as you guys can see there at the bottom of the screen. But the second topic would be sort of like outgrowing people, and sometimes how when you get older in life and the priorities change, sometimes life changes and takes you down directions. And you might not be as close to people that you were once very cool and very close with.
Exactly. I'm just going to put some background music in here. But you're absolutely right. You outgrow people. So we'll actually talk about that as well, the potential of outgrowing people. But we'll touch on the deeper one first, which I think is the importance of healthy relationships and management between children and parents. They can kind of honestly shape your relationships as you kind of get older as well into adulthood, whether it be friendships, whether it be intimate relationships. It really does kind of shape that. And all of our knowledge is based off of research. There were a couple people that we were going to try to get on here tonight. Unfortunately, the circumstances just didn't work out, and this was because of a switch in topic for an episode that was supposed to be for this week. So it was a little bit of a last-minute thought process. It was something we had thought about, but we were kind of planning this out like weeks down the line. So I think it was going to be me and George tonight, but I do want to also apologize for the delay. I know we were supposed to go at 6, but we had some issues, so we are here at 6:30. But this episode what an interesting topic, George. I actually give George the shout out for the topic idea on this one. But it's actually very relevant nonetheless, because we all have obviously had some type of relationship from childhood, whether our parents were there or not. This is a very relevant topic, and I think it is important to understand the importance of a secure relationship with your parents from an early age. And unfortunately, not all children are able to have that. And it's not the fault of the child all the time. You know what I mean? Your circumstances
The
can
parents
change.
do sometimes. Yeah.
Of course, majority of the time, if your parents aren't there, how's that? It's not the child's fault that the parents weren't there and they weren't, you know what I mean, if they were abandoned by their parents or whatever the circumstances are. So all our information tonight is based off research, maybe personal experience for those closest to us. I just want to say, guys, if you're watching our content here, before we actually dive into it, I just want to say thank you, number one. Number two, if you're watching on YouTube and you're not already subscribed, you know the deal. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And on top of that, hit that notification bell to turn notifications on. We do release episodes every single week. You don't want to miss it. Number two, if you want to add to the discussion tonight, you have something to add, drop those comments down below. We will put your comments on the screen unless you ask us not to in the comment, and then we'll just address it, but majority of the time we put them on the screen. Number three, just sit back, relax, grab a beverage, something to drink, and chill, and enjoy the podcast. It is 2024, blessings, humbleness, and growth in 2024. All right, so 158, here we are. George, do you want to kick this one off. So what do you think when you think of a relationship between, you know, parents and their child, and kind of as that progresses into the adult, I'd say like the adult stages of one's life, like how important would you say you think it is for a healthy relationship between parents and child?
Well, I think it's very important, bro. It's like I said earlier, and even in the promo, it's essential. And it's kind of like the foundation, the roots a little, because you're born to your parents, whether your mommy's around, your dad's around, you know, sometimes, you know, it might be one or the other. But what matters is that, like, the child has at least one of the parents. But always, almost, I would say 100% of the time, it's better to have two. We can kind of agree on that. So you're growing up and you get your love for your mother, you're getting nurtured and all that, you're getting developing a certain relationship. But it's just like almost like how by nature you have a different relationship with your mom and as opposed to your father, you know, because you need your dad there to also be there for you growing up, especially if you're a young lady, but a young man too, you know what I mean? You know the old saying, and I know people have heard it, that like, well, only your father can kind of teach his son to be a man. Well, the mom can also shape you. She can teach you and kind of raise you to be a man, but in a certain type of like perspective and understanding, in a certain type of level, so to speak. The mom can teach you stuff the dad can't, and vice versa. Your father can show you things that sort of more masculine and manly things, you know, and it's important to have both and to extract the love of both and to love both your parents, and, you know, and always make it work out. And we'll get to more the detail, more like, you know, sort of like the progression. But I'm just starting from a small child to like teenage, you know, because right now it's what we're focusing on. So one is born, you know, by a certain age, like you develop some memories, you know, you're a child. The developmental years, say, are from like when you're born, bro, which is like you're an infant to a couple months, all the way to about 7 or I think it's like 8, they say. By the time you're 8, you have formed a little bit of like your inner beginnings, you know what I'm saying, like of yourself, and that's like your personality, so, you know, sort of like your attributes take, you know, kind of like take shape around there, you know, what you like, some of your interests, you know, or the earliest interest, because obviously you have time, and also the parents' situation, kind of, you know, and your relationship with them, sort of like a change in a way, but slowly, because obviously they look at you different when you're 2 or 3 and you're 7, and then from 7 to about 12, and then like we're 12, which is almost a teenager, 13, and you're a teenager, but those years is a big difference, and then all the way to like 18, the relationship with the dynamics can change a little bit, but, you know, that's what we're here to kind of like explain, you know, based on our experiences and what we know. So yeah, to answer the question, bro, I think it's very important, and it can shape you in many ways, you know, because you can see like kind of sometimes even what you're made of, your parents can help you see that, and then you kind of find yourself later as well in life, like you find out more about yourself, but it starts like at a young age. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's obviously important. It really shapes our relationships as we get older too. You know, and that's the thing. It's really important to understand, you know, why a healthy relationship is important. Obviously, you hear the word healthy, you know it's good, but why essentially? What are the consequences of not having a healthy relationship at an early age? And parents need to understand this with their children. A lot of times, parents nowadays, we have an understanding. We have. Let me phrase this. We have the resources at our fingertips to understand, you know, mental health and different things like that. But back in the day, I was actually just having a conversation with someone over the weekend about this. And back in the day, I don't actually want to put their name out there, but we had a conversation about this. And our parents, they didn't have the resources that we have today to break. Say if you were in a traumatic household, we can break that barrier today, because we have the mental health resources and we also have the internet. We can research, we can do our due diligence on these things. So if you grew up in a traumatic household, you can honestly do the research to understand how your parent was operating. They probably came from a traumatic household themselves, and they didn't have the resources growing up. So they essentially could not, they just kind of went off what they knew, how their parents raised them. That's how they raised their own children. And see, we can kind of break that barrier through the generational barrier right now. But it is important to understand these, because if you are in a very unhealthy traumatic household and you don't recognize that growing up, it can cause issues in future relationships, whether it be friendships, whether it be an intimate relationship. It can literally cause a lot of issues and a lot of damage.
Relationships.
Yeah. So essentially, why building a relationship with your child matters. So having a healthy relationship with your child, providing your child, this is just off research I've done, providing your child with love and affection is a prerequisite for healthy development of their brain, their self-confidence, capacity to thrive, and even their ability to form relationships. throughout their life. So self-confidence is a big one. Their ability to thrive and essentially survive, and the development of their brain chemistry as well. They say this about babies, like you can't really give a baby too much love because a baby doesn't really know. You can't really spoil a baby. By holding them or giving them too much attention. You can respond to their cues for feeding and comfort to make a baby feel secure. Obviously, there's not really such thing as, smothering or over spoiling a baby, because a baby is not. So. They don't have the brain chemistry yet to really understand. But they say when babies are routinely left alone, they think they've been abandoned, so they become more clingy and insecure when the parents return. So we'll actually get into attachment styles shortly too, because this is actually important. How you were raised can actually shape your attachment style in future relationships, whether it be intimate or friendships.
Future dynamics.
Or friendships as well. So I'll just go off this example. If a baby feels abandoned, they might have more of, they say, like an anxious attachment. Like they feel more the need to be clingy and more insecure. But we'll talk about the other ones as well. But anyway, a positive early bond with a parent and a child, it helps lay the groundwork for children to grow up and become happy, independent adults. Loving, secure relationships actually help build resilience in a young child or adolescence, and it helps with our ability to cope with challenges and recover from setbacks. I'm not sure if I'm sure you probably agree with that.
Yeah, heard about that too. Like you said, bro, it's the beginning stages of the affection is also kind of the big, like you said, a big piece of that. How much affection your parents show you, but not to kind of necessarily get spoiled, but also how they raise you, educate you. And yeah, it could definitely help shape your attitude and how you become, because if you're raised a certain way, no one's really born a certain way or the other. You kind of it's how you kind of are shaped. It's in the genes a little bit. Your parents, it's obviously, or your caretakers, because we can say you might have some guardians. Maybe your parents can't take care of you, so they gave you somewhere else, just for the time being. Which, by the way, does happen. And it's not adoption. It's more like it's like a deal that some families do sometimes. They can't raise a child for some reason. Yeah, primary caretaker. So they might assign his child somewhere else, might give him away for a little. And sometimes the child might even know that, sometimes doesn't know that. And again, when they're raised, they feel like the parents, the caretakers are the real parents. They can either create conflict or sometimes confusion, but not always. But sometimes the child might know and they understand. I knew somebody who was raised like that, and he knew his parents couldn't take care of him for a little, so he had to live with his grandparents and with his aunt for a little bit. Another person that I knew that grew up, this girl, she actually grew up with another family, but her parents were still kind of there. But they're going through a lot, so it's actually more beneficial for the child to be raised somewhere else and then come back, and everything kind of goes back to regular. They had proceed with their family life. But the styles of affection, bro, and attachments are very interesting. So
definitely,
it all ties in with what we're talking about right now.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. I was going to say it absolutely does. So you're right. It's important. We have to understand, that not everybody was in a privilege to have a healthy relationship with their parents, but we can work out that trauma. That's the thing. Everybody's been through different things. I don't ever want to put myself in somebody else's shoes, and ever try to understand, if they went through a more traumatic childhood than me, try to understand. But the good thing is, from the research I've done, we have the resources. But you were saying, majority of it is the relationship, right, George? With our parents from a young age, or our primary caregivers from a young age, it can help shape us in relationships. But there are obviously, like you were saying, genetics and factors through brain chemistry when you were born that obviously can affect this. So I don't want to say everything is through the relationship, but having a secure and healthy relationship does help set that foundation.
It's really very beneficial. Yes,
it helps set the foundation, and that's very important. So it's so they have here in research. This is from UNICEF.org, and what they say is how to bond with your child. So some of the 4 key ones is they say notice what they do, very vigilant of their actions. So they say when a child cries, gestures, babbles, appropriately respond appropriately with a hug, eye contact, words. We tell you from a young age. We are actually just having a conversation me and a couple of people over the weekend about this, and they actually said, a lot of our parents' generation, it's not everybody, but a lot of people in like the past generations, they grew up in, so people I was talking to, they grew up in a traumatic household. They said, say a dish breaks, the first thing was they would either want to lie about it or hide it, but because they were fearful, because the parents would say, not are you okay, but why did you break that dish? That cost money, blah, blah, blah. Like, well, yes, if you broke something accidentally, it's an object. It's an idol.
Right.
It can be replaced. Did you think to ask, did you get cut? Are you okay? We don't tend to, no, I'm not saying, I don't want to put jump everybody and say we, but a lot of parents.
A lot of couples, a lot of people in general.
Yeah, if they have a certain type of relationship with their kid, they might get angry and upset. And, the first thing they ask is, like, why did you break that? And they shun that person for doing something like that, even though it was an accident. Not asking, are you okay? Like, their first thing is to go to the object. Oh, why did you break that? And yes, while it's something that costs money, it can't be replaced. We can't replace, people. So, like, you got to understand is, like, we have to kind of be we have to be careful of how we communicate and how we respond. Another thing they say is also play together. So playing with your child has been shown to boost their self-confidence. It helps them feel valued at a young age. A lot of times, people have kids and they don't play with their kids. They don't spend a lot of time with their children, and it leads to issues down the road. We'll get into attachment styles later, but another one is they say to hold them close. It helps them feel secure. It releases the feel-good chemical of oxytocin, which calms the release of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Yeah. So, you ever hear when
somebody side, like
even when
that appreciation.
Yeah, even when someone's struggling a lot of times, sometimes all they really need, like, I'm just being honest, is a hug. Like, they could be going through a really hard time and they probably say, oh, they might even push you, like, get away from me and blah, blah, blah. But, like, sometimes that's really all they need is, like, they not even trying to understand their situation, trying to jump yourself in, but just a calm, just, I'm here for you. Just, you know what I mean? Sometimes people need that. And the fourth and fifth ones, as they say, have conversations, take an interest in what your child says, show that you actually care about their thoughts and feelings. 5 is to respond to their needs. Obviously, it could be practical needs. If a child needs their diaper changed, they need to be fed, they're hungry or thirsty, respond to their needs. And also their emotional needs, like you said, have conversations, talk to them. What are your thoughts on that? I'm just going to turn my camera off for a second.
No problem. I agree with you said, bro, and I was looking at some stuff as well myself. I got some notes here and some stuff I was taking a look at. So they do say that, like, the environment is very important, but it's also, like you said, the first communication, how you kind of like interaction. There we go. Interaction is key, and it's kind of connects to and ties to what you just said, because it's like how you approach a child. Do you reward him for, like, bad behavior, or do you punish him, or do you really not necessarily, like, punish him right away, but you show him something. It's like a different type of punishment, not harsh punishment. There we go. You can be harsh, less harsh, and more strategic, and you can kind of like let it slide down there and all that. And we all know that to raise the right way, it's like you got to show them a little love, and you can let it slide a little. But when you're being hard-headed and kids are not listening, you got to be a certain way, And also when they get older, a little older, and they get a little more feeling more sort of like rebellious and entitled, like usually after like 9 or 10, they're getting older. By 11, it's like they're like in the pre-teen years. They're not quite like kids, but they're like they are kids, but they're not like teenagers. They're like, I believe it's like 11 to about 12 or 10 to 12. That age, that age period, 10, 11, 12. That's when their activities and interests will peak more, and especially in this kind of modern climate of things, it's like kids tend to feel like they're more like they're learning more, so they think to know they think they know what more than they really know. But this phenomenon also happens at 14 though, or this occurrence. Now they might ask, and you probably know this because obviously we were 14 once upon a time. Why this happens a lot? Well, it's also a little simple. Around like after 13, when they're like in 7th grade, right, 8th grade. It's like you kind of believe, yourself a little more. The confidence, it's an age factor too. It's got to do a little bit, not so much. Only how you're raised, but also it's your age and where you are in life, and also what you see around you. You feel like you've done more now. You're almost in high school, or you're in high school. So boys tend to have like more a different type of almost like aura about it. Like the confidence a little more, and you have discoveries. And girls too, But girls, of course, mature before guys, so they might already see things a little more sort of like in a mature way, even though you're far from an adult, whether you're a guy or a girl. At 14, you're you're just past that childhood point. You're a teenager. You just became a teenager, but still early on. I remember at 14, bro, people tell me don't even like lift like heavy boulders, none of that. Just just relax. You'll build your muscles by running and playing basketball and soccer and like don't do no weights. But they're like, maybe you can do a push-up or two. Like my uncle tell me, don't go crazy because you don't want your arms to be too. He's like, you'll stay short, so you gotta be careful with that. He said, like, he's like, eat healthy, and he'll tell me like sleep at night. Like sleep at night's important. Like my dad told me a lot about this too, and my uncle. I mean, I was lucky that both, and when I go to Albania, I think my uncle got. But at 14, I was a little developed, but not the whole way there. But after 15, bro, that's when I started to like my body grew more. I grew naturally. I didn't hit weights till about. I mean, I would do some light stuff at 16, like, but I would exercise, very light weights, nothing crazy, and he helped me, be in shape. I was in wrestling team too, and just wrestling itself can help you build muscle, and you're like in good shape. Because in high school, you have weight training after a certain age. You can actually do weights. So.
Yeah, exactly. Our body composition is central. But so it's important to understand that too. It's like lifting weights too early. I don't know like what the actual thing is on it. Everybody's different. I was lifting in high school, but I wasn't lifting like super heavy. So you know what I mean? Like it was a little bit different. But I just want to emphasize based off of research, but also personal experiences and no notes or anything like that. I think it's important to be able to have conversations with your children. So your children should be able to come to you for things, but also they should be able to help. You should be able to help instill a sense of independence in that child. So where they can't rely on you for everything, but they can come to you with any issues. And that's why I actually really like the part of what is said on UNICEF is about having conversations with children, being able to talk and have those conversations. Because guess what? You honestly need to be able to have those. It can lead if your parents shun you. If you live in a household where you're shunned, every single time you try to talk to somebody, you try to get on a deeply emotional level, it can honestly make you struggle with vulnerability as you get older. That's an honest thing. It's struggle. We might be able to get close to somebody on a physical level, but on an emotional level, it becomes challenging. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I was just talking to somebody over the weekend about this. They were telling me personally it was from their own life. Like they were telling me from their own life about this. And I was like, yeah, I've seen it many times. Like but people struggle to open up and be vulnerable with other people because they were shunned. So it's not the child's fault if that happened, but there's trauma there. And the good thing is we have a lot of resources today. And everybody's situation is different. And I don't ever try to put myself in people's shoes. But it's like the good thing is our parents' generation, they didn't have those type of resources, from 30, 40 years ago. They didn't have this type of resources or the internet to be able to do the research that they could today. They had to open up a book. It was different. I guess George will be back. Not sure what happened to his thing. But as I was saying, it was just, they have resources today. Like we have resources to be able to kind of do the work to understand, and also even if we're not dealing with a certain way, we'll talk about attachment styles in a second. But say you're a very secured person, you came from a very healthy household where you could communicate effectively with your parents or your primary caregivers. If you are in a situation where you could communicate effectively, we can be empathetic towards other people because we can look and do the research, do the work behind the scenes to understand. You know what I mean? What maybe they went through. We're not going to understand the full picture because everybody's situation is unique. But there are different attachment styles that kind of develop as a result of the type of relationship you had either with your primary caregiver or your actual parent. So it is important to have a healthy relationship. Say you have kids, and you want to write the narrative. Obviously, as a child, it's not your fault if you grew up in a traumatic household. It's not your fault as a child. So,
Right. It's just kind of like it goes back to the situation, bro. And I actually want to say this. By the way, I just kind of switched a second. I had a small little freeze, but I'm back. So it matters the environment that you were born in, bro, and also the environment. And usually it's between like early childhood. It could be anywhere between you're born till about 6. Usually between 7 and like 10, you're again at the the second phase of the childhood, which is like before the preteen years. You're still child, but you're a little older. Then you're preteen and teen. But the environment's big, bro. And also it's not a choice of a child, but it really could be traumatic for like somebody growing up, having not a great relationship with his parents, because you only can get worse.
So from the beginning, if it's good and it doesn't get any better, sometimes it's the opposite. Relationship with the kids and children don't always. I mean, the mom could have been the kid, the father might have walked off or came late in his life, and sometimes they do reconcile later on, especially if they're a certain age. But realistically, if the father left early and he comes back at like 14, the child might not understand, so he feels abandoned. But if he's 24, 25, he's older, so he might see things a little more what they are, because always, the term always tell us, when you're older, you understand. It's okay, Johnny. When you're older, you understand. You're a little young now. You're years old. Now Johnny's 18, 19. Now he understands, or like 20. And honestly, that's how it is, but it's cliche. It sounds kind of funny, but that's how it is, for real. Like, you really understand more as you get older. But sometimes also you have a good relationship with your parents, but unfortunately over time something happens and you steer away, and it's unfortunate, because a lot of times it starts like that too, not the other way around. It starts like, well, it gets worse. Doesn't start good, but it gets better. I mean, look, there's some celebrities who had like not great relationship with their parents, and then somehow they were in good terms, in a good place, like, oh yeah, we're in a good place now. I'm in a good place with like my mom or my dad or my uncle, And sometimes your uncle is your dad almost, you have like somebody very close, like almost another immediate family member, right? Steve, I know you can relate because you have some uncles that you're pretty close to, and aunts, and and like cousins or things of that nature. So yeah, bro, I agree with you, and there's more to it though than we just said, though. I feel like both of us made some good points, but there's definitely more to it than just that, right? Like, there's more to the truth than what we spoke about, but we brought some good perspectives, and definitely got to be try to reciprocate the love, and also like see what's going on, kind of, you know what I mean? Like with the parents, bro.
No,
like, understanding is important. You know what I mean? You gotta understand. They gotta understand you as you get older and see, like, the person that you're developing to. But it's also with their help. Like, you become like a fine young man or young woman. Like, sometimes, bro, just your life becomes your parents. Unfortunately, people lose their parents.
Let me make the announcement there, though. If you went through a traumatic experience, I've already said it like 5 times, but it's not your fault. The good thing is,
right,
you do it. There's resources, but it's not your fault that you went through what you went through. Just because you might not have a secure relationship, or a secure attachment, which we'll talk about, doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad person because
no, not at all.
But it is important to take the steps to heal. We'll talk about avoidant. We'll talk about anxious, which it's weird how those two kind of stick together. It's like kind of how they did at the beginning, the track. But we'll talk about that as well. But, I mean, you make good points, man. If somebody walks out of their life, or their parents were never in their life, it does lead to abandonment. They could live in a household with 2 parents. Just because they didn't walk out doesn't mean they don't even feel abandoned. If they felt shunned by their parents their entire life, every single thing they said, you communicated like to their parents, they weren't able to actually talk to them. They feel shunned. And I you know what I mean? Like, I'm grateful for my parents, but our communication wasn't always, great growing up. And I'm just being honest, open and honest. But like, the good thing is you is to be able to recognize it, acknowledge it, and then try to find steps that, like, you're like, I have kids. My kids can come to me for anything. I'm not going to be like that. And you have to honestly just be very conscious of it and just understand. But certain attachments do develop as a result of it. So I'll actually talk about the George, because we were talking about this before the show.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the one that everybody aims for, secure attachment. So secure attachment.
Important.
Yeah, this is self research I have in my notes here. I'll just actually read for what it is. So there's 3 attachment styles. So the main 3 attachment styles are secure, anxious, and avoidant. So in contrast to anxious and avoidant attachment styles, the secure attachment implies that a person is comfortable expressing their emotions properly. So a secured attachment style, those adults that live with that, they can depend on their partners, but they can also let their partners turn to them. So they are able to be vulnerable with their partners, but at the same time, this could also be in friendships too. Actually, this doesn't just have to be a relationship. This could be friendships as well.
Right.
You can rely on your friends or your partner, and they can rely on you as well. So you can be vulnerable with them. And you know what? This kind of led to it didn't even have to just be relationships or friendships. Say I'm like working on something. I'm a very independent person, and I've had to over the years kind of figure out how to let people help me in certain situations. I could be working on a project and I just want to do it all on my own. I want to, what do they say? If you want something done right, do it yourself. I used to be somebody who was always in a mentality. I wouldn't really let people help me as much. And as I've gotten older, I've become much better with that, allowing others to help me in situations. So it doesn't even have to just be friendships or relationships. It also could be like a working relationship. Say you're at work and others can help.
It could be a partnership, or it could be a situation like that.
Yeah, so being able to depend on other people. If you've been your entire life, and this is actually one of the things that avoid attachment style, if you were your entire life, if you figured out you couldn't depend on other people, say your entire life you've been let down. Every single time somebody was going to, you needed somebody to help you or meet certain needs in your life, you've been let down. That can literally lead to an avoidant attachment as you get older. You start to avoid when things get too close because you have fear of rejection. You know you're going to get let down anyway. In your mind anyway, even if you're not going to get let down, in your mind you think, I'm going to get let down, so I'm just going to push this away because I just feel like the person that's closest to me or the person I'm trying to depend on is just going to let me down anyway. So a secured attachment, you can depend on others. At the same time, they can also depend on you. It's one of the critical things of it. Relationships with someone with a secure attachment style are based on honesty, tolerance, and emotional closeness. Although someone with this attachment style often thrives in their relationships, they also don't fear being on their own. So that's a key one too. While you can rely on your partner for things and you can bring security to them, they can also, a secure relationship partner also doesn't fear doing their own thing. They're not anxious at the with their partner. They don't need their partner to bring the complete fulfillment of their life. Their whole picture of their life is inside their partner. They're secure with who they are and their mission and what they're doing in life. That's why I actually say we actually preach on personal development for women and men out there. Always make sure that you have a mission and purpose inside this life, because if you're reliant on friends or your partner for your happiness all the time, it doesn't mean that they can't make you happy, but you can't be fully reliant on that person. George, I'm sure you can agree with that. We've been in I'm sure relationships where you felt like you were like, especially when I was younger, your whole happiness comes from it. And it's like, it's not healthy. You can't have your whole happiness from your relationship with your partner, or even when your friends aren't there. Say your friends can't come out a certain night and then you feel anxious. You're like, oh, I can't do anything. Be comfortable in your own company. Don't fear doing things by yourself. Not saying you have to self-isolate yourself from everybody around you.
Like, don't
be comfortable.
No fear in being alone.
Yeah. Exactly. Don't fear being alone. You know what I mean? Easier said than done. Like if you've been abandoned and you're like, you feel abandoned, you know what I mean? But you hit the heel. Secured attachers, they tend to have a positive view of themselves and of others. So they don't overly seek external approval or validation, and they can successfully identify and regulate their emotions and even help their partner do theirs. So I actually say one of the biggest things of a securely attached person also is you have to understand that, say you're in a partnership, you're with your wife, your girlfriend, or if you're a girl, you're with your man, your boyfriend, or your husband. You have to understand, or even in friendships as well, that if someone's going through a crisis, you can help guide them and coach them and be there for support. Also understand that you can't fix somebody either. So a securely attached person understands that. They understand that. I just want to say that as well. But yeah, I think we all strive for secure attachment. It's never perfect, but most people try to. We all want to be securely attached, believe me. We don't want to be, but I mean, it's actually a little bit more rare than people think, I think.
True.
So George, I'll actually go through the other two.
Attachment, bro.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the secured attachment, George? I'll actually ask you, and before I go into the other two.
I think that's probably like the most common one, like because everybody kind of wants to like have this attachment where they can still kind of like do their thing, like when they grow up, but still kind of like keep up with their parents. That means important that your parents are married, if you have a family, then now they're gonna be grandparents if you decide to have kids, So it's good to have like that main attachment, but I don't think that, unfortunately, although maybe back in the day the majority still like go for that one these days, it's just changed a lot. I feel like a lot of attachments are different now because it just seems like after a certain age, a lot of people that are young adults, we'll just say young adults because, you know, it's like when most people kind of settle down or finish college, go about their life, they settle down, maybe they don't right away, but they find somebody. A lot of times that's when the disattachment, I've noticed personally, I'm not going to quote statistics, but so I don't know what the number is, I'm not going to say none of that, but I've seen it myself that's where that shift in the distance kind of starts happening. But doesn't mean that other attachments don't work. It also depends a little bit on the person, and then it goes right back to what we just talked about, right, Steve? How were you raised? You might have been raised a certain way that if you're colder and you were super affectionate, super close to your parents, you might be feel different, or that, you know, the different attachments, you know.
Yeah, it all goes back to how you were raised. I mean, if you were raised in that, I mean, also brain chemistry and other things keep going into it. But relationships, I would say a lot of it is from the relationships that we have as children with our parents. Like I said, if you're abandoned, you fear of abandonment, or you're shunned, or you know you weren't able to rely on people, you probably have an avoidance style. If you were overly attached and relied on your parents for everything, you could have the anxious attachment style. So we'll get into both of those actually right now, so we don't hold it up too much. I do want to get into this. We'll see if, honestly, guys, if it does run over an hour, we might not have full time to really discuss outgrowing others. That becomes, you know, we do want to kind of keep this to an hour, but if not, we will address it in a complete other episode, and we'll have it. Because I think this one's the most important one is honestly talking about this relationship. You know, outgrowing others is important too. But George, which one should we go to next? I'll ask JS you. Do you want to go to avoidant, or do you want to go to the anxious attachment?
Let's go to the anxious, then avoidant, because I think that's the second one. Like you seem like.
Yeah, so I'll go off my notes I have for anxious, but then I'll also talk, you know, from people, you know, just personal experience, you know, just understanding it. So the anxious attachment style. So what it says is adults with an anxious attachment style, they tend to have a negative self view, but they have a positive view of other people. So what it means is that they view their partner as literal better half, like literally their better half. You know, people say that saying, but they actually view it like that because someone with this attachment style deems themselves to be less worthy of love in comparison to the other people. The thought of actually living without their partner or their person causes high levels of anxiety, hence anxious attachment. In other words, they deeply fear abandonment. So if you dealt with abandonment issues from a very early age, this is where this comes into play, the anxious attachment style. So to ease this fear of abandonment, people with an anxious attachment style, what they tend to do is they tend to strongly desire security within their relationships, whether it be security from mostly their partner, but also from friendships. They can be clingy in friendships too. Like, you know, you ever have that friend that always wants to do something with you? They don't have their own sense of self or their own identity, so they always want to be around their friends. That could be an anxious attachment. It doesn't just have to be inside relationships. So people with security, they desire security within the relationships and attention, care, responsiveness from a partner, and that tends to be the remedy for their feelings of anxiety. On the other hand, the perceived absence of support and intimacy can lead someone with anxious attachment style to become even more clingy, demanding, preoccupied with the relationship, and desperate for the reassurance that they are loved. So you see how this kind of comes into play? Kind of see this here.
Obviously,
in a nutshell, people with this attachment style value their relationships highly, but they're hypervigilant towards threats to their security. So anxious attachment style can be linked to fears of abandonment. If you were abandoned by your father, walked out at a young age, your mother walked out, or maybe you know your whole life you've dealt with certain things of abandonment, this is where the anxious attachment kind of comes into play. So George, what are your thoughts on that? I'm sure we've all known people that have gone through this attachment style, you know, and you know, maybe we have as well. It's, you know, it all depends. Everybody's different, but I know plenty of people who have dealt with this.
And this is the what's the name style again? Anxious, yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, it kind of goes back a little bit to the dynamics and how people are. It's like some people kind of like tend to kind of like, you know, be more like closer to the families than others, and also some people also sometimes tend to have a little bit of preference. I know it's a little funny to ask because like I don't want to be like, well, we like better, your mom, your dad, but there's different, you know, reasons for everything. You know what I mean? Some people, it's like it's just like part of like how they are, you know what I mean? It's like they got anxiety and they go through some stuff. Some people might talk to their parents and tell them everything, and that's cool. I think that's actually the better way to do it. Some don't do it. Some are just like, you keep it more inside, you know, they develop more, so like, that's actually worse because it gets worse after that. Or some people feel like they can't even talk to their parents. I've been there before in the past. I feel like, man, my parents don't feel me out on this. I don't know. They don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So it's like you tell somebody and be like, well, you don't know this. It's like telling a guy doesn't kids, well, this and that, my kids, my wife. Well, you never married, you haven't kids. So then you don't know what the fuck I'm feeling. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what the fuck I'm talking about then. It's cool. So it's like some people don't really then open up to their parents, but they might open up to their brother or sister though. That's a whole other, you know what I'm saying? A whole other topic. I mean, a whole other, scenario. And they might express a little different, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it all depends. It's obviously fear of abandonment. It kind of tends to make them scared to ever be abandoned. We'll actually talk about the other one too, which is the opposite side of it, which is the DA, which is dismissive avoidant as well. So I want to cover this as well, and then we can talk about them all. So the avoidant dismissive, people with the avoidant dismissive attachment style, they're the opposite. They tend to have a positive self-view and a negative view of others. Consequently, they prefer to foster a high sense of independence and self-sufficiency, especially on the emotional level. They don't like relying on others for their emotional well-being. And like I said, this kind of comes from in childhood. If you were taught at an early age to rely, you can't rely on other people. Say your primary caregiver, your parents just weren't there for you. This kind of goes in with being abandoned. They might be there, but they don't meet your needs. You've had to rely on yourself and take care of like the household or whatever, you know. This can lead to a DA attachment style. You can actually have a mix of some of these as well. I just want to make that clear. But anyway, the DA or dismissive avoidant attachment style tends to believe that they don't have to be in a relationship to feel complete. So that kind of goes to the sense of self. That's why secured is actually important, to be able to kind of combine attachments. Like you don't want to be on one end of the spectrum or the other. So they don't need a relationship to be complete. They do not want to depend on others, have others depend on them, or seek support and approval in social bonds. Adults with this attachment style generally avoid intimacy or emotional closeness, so they may withdraw from a relationship if they feel the other person is becoming a little bit too reliant on them in this matter. And when I say intimacy, I kind of say the emotional intimacy, because DAs can still like have physical attachment and physical intimacy. I don't want to say that they'll avoid it completely. Maybe some might avoid, like, not want to have physical intimacy, but some can still have physical intimacy. But when it comes to the emotional closeness is when they struggle sometimes. They also tend to hide or suppress their feelings when faced with a potentially emotion-dense situation, such as conflict.
So they don't talk about it. Like, they're more secluded to stay to themselves, basically. They're not really...
Yeah, they don't want to emotionally be vulnerable.
Relationships.
And this is a lot of people. It's a lot of people. It's not. It's people. It's not. This isn't rare. I would actually say the secured attachment. Most people are not securely attached. I mean, as you would try to believe, but a lot of people struggle with either the anxious attachment or the avoidant attachment. These are legitimate things. People struggle with. I think George froze there, so we'll wait to see. George, you there, man? I think you froze. Yeah, you froze.
Fear of abandonment big.
Okay, you were frozen for like 30 seconds. I see you moving now.
Yeah, but I heard what you said though.
You're delayed. So what are your thoughts on the DA, the dismissive avoidant attachment style?
Dismissive avoidance. I mean, again, bro. It's like it's kind of like when you didn't get enough like attention. It seems like, you know what I mean, like as a child.
Or you were taught not to really be able to rely on other people. Like, you can't depend on other people.
Yeah.
Your whole life you've been independent, and while independence is important, it's also important to be understanding that you can rely on other people too. So that's why it's important to have a balance. You can depend on others, but not so much that every single thing about you is dependent on that other person. You still can be self-reliant and independent. So you still have a sense of self. That's why secure attachment.
I think it's a good one, bro. Like, I personally was raised a little different. Probably more like to kind of like rely on yourself, but also, unfortunately, my parents sometimes would spoil me and take care of stuff for me. But however, like, my dad told me the importance of like doing and asking about it. Like, there's no tomorrow, do it now. Like, one job is zero job, 2 jobs is one job. The whole thing, it's like the same thing. Like, try to be more disciplined and rely on yourself, but also be capable of doing things yourself. So you're early to meetings, you're attentive, you pay attention, you ask the right questions, you learning stuff, or you try to do it your own, so you can basically a survivalist, in other words, because that's actually, I think it's actually not too bad of a style of attachment or raising, bro. I feel like even you probably have some of it because it makes you more independent, but I don't want to sit here and say that, like, well, you don't need some kind of affection, and sometimes you shouldn't ask your parents for help, or at least expect a little from your parents. As a child, you should, but don't get too entitled to think that your parents should handle everything for you. That's also tricky, you know what I mean? You also have said this in the past, like we mentioned that in conversations, just talking, just like, regular, I'm saying, alley talk, or we're chilling off. So like we said that, like, some people got it all in life, also have rich parents, and they still take care of them, help them out. Some people got to just kind of do it on their own. And some people have their parents that can help them to an extent, but don't have that rich mom and dad, so they might have to go and get it on their own and do something different, or like do different choices in life, like maybe go for a different major even, in college, or move out of town to get a job that's good in career, to get a career. See, they don't tell you this. Some parents are more attached to you, want you to stay home. Some say, go ahead, do your thing, but don't, forget about us. But they'll encourage you to go out of town. And there's people that don't want to move because they'd rather be close to their family, their parents, their brothers and sisters or siblings, right, or their significant other. Like, the significant other might not want you to, like, move to, you might have to move to Georgia or to, like, Chicago for a job, and you might be 2 years, but your girlfriend at the time, or right now, might not want you to do that. So it's like, you gotta, like, kind of tell her, oh, listen, babe, I'd like to go there, but it's for the both of us, you can move in as well. Or, it's like, you could be, like, in the same, it's like, see each other all the time. And that, again, it's from, like, that attitude of you being more independent a little bit, but also maybe that could have happened that way because you were raised to be more, think more for yourself and independent, and rather to have people do it for you. You can get disappointed easy if you rely too much on others. So, I don't disagree with that kind of attachment. I think they all got their benefits, but obviously anxious is a little different, but
yeah, it's important to just understand it's a little bit different, but that's why there has to be, like, a healthy balance, because if you're too reliant on other people, it can be considered anxious. You're very anxious. You're relying on other people for your own happiness. But if you're very much the other side of the spectrum, you be considered avoidant. Like you were saying, if people have issues with, like, certain logistics or certain things inside the relationships or their friendships, a securely attached person can have those conversations, and you have a healthy conversation, you talk about it, but not everybody grows up having those type of attachments. So it's there's actually tests you can take too to try to understand what your attachment style is. Sometimes you might think you're a securely attached person, but then you start to realize you have traits of somebody who's not a securely attached person. They could be anxious or avoidant. So there's tests that you can go to figure out, or you can just go honestly consult a mental health professional and go, and I'm sure there's tests you can take to figure it out. We are at almost the 55-minute mark here, so I don't actually think we'll probably have enough time to really go outgrowing others, unless, like, you want to talk about it for a second, George, but I think we should probably dedicate, like, an episode to this.
Maybe we could, yeah. I guess we could, it's fine. Like you said, bro, it was kind of like a subtopic, but actually, it's a very good topic. We can do some more research on it as far as the second portion of today's show and topic. So if you guys, want to hear us talk about that, we can do it another one. We can still mention a few things, but I think we're making dedicate its own episode and do its own thing for this one. So that's fine, bro. We have about, I only have about 5 to 10 minutes on the clock, so it's 54, which will take us to about an hour. So keep it short, kind of keep it on this, and we can mention a few things about Outgrowing others if you want. But keep it light, and then maybe dedicate its own night to this.
Yeah, I'll actually let you talk a little bit about that if you want, while I'm, like, actually putting resources up. So I want to put some resources up for people.
Yeah, take the time to do that. It's a very good idea, definitely. Let's but before we actually move on to the next show, like, to this, and then we kind of finish the show, let's overview a little bit as you write put some of the details down and some of the on the on the bio. You drop some links. Let's talk a little bit about like finish up strong with basically, like we talked about the development styles, you know, how the child develops a little. We talked about the 4 attachment types or the 3 ones. There's actually another one, bro. I think you mentioned it before. There was another one. There were 3 one. I can't see it right now. I'm trying to find it. Just a second.
Sure.
Oh, there we go. So talk about secure, avoidant, aka dismissive, anxious, avoidant. Sometimes anxious, which we talk about, and disorganized, aka fearful, avoidant in children. Okay, that was the 4th one. I mean, I see some stuff too. It's on Psych Central though. Actually, very good site if you guys haven't seen it. PsychCentral.com. Very simple. So yeah, but anyway, so to kind of like to mention that basically, guys, it's like we talked about earlier. Obviously, dynamics of your family are very important because not only they're only there, and we talked a lot about developmental times and when you're in your teens and how you develop with your parents and the styles of attachment, but also when you get older. Like even right now, at our age that we are now, me and you, Steve, we still are dealing with family functions because we have a relationship with our parents, and you know, I mean, whether you leave your parents or not, you know, if you live with them, fine too, you know. But even if you go see them, you're gonna still have that connection with them, emotional connections. I mean, even if you don't, you know, your parents don't always see eye to eye, you're still gonna go for Thanksgiving and see your folks. I mean, so you're still in that basically. You're not like you don't see your parents anymore like you used to, you know, see now. It's like it's been years you don't see them. Sometimes it's a case, or unfortunately, you know, when a parent has passed away, and you might think about the good times, you know, but you always go through it with your parents. You know, you're always gonna be like, there's gonna be always phases, and there's, you know, portions. When you're younger, you see them more. When the older you get, you see them less. And sometimes when you get settled down with your significant other, you might not, you know, see them as much neither. But again, the dynamics with the parents, bro, and with the like mom and dad, you know, it's just like it all depends too. But it also can depend if they're together. Sometimes they're not might not be together no more. So now your relationship changes because you have one with your father and your mother, and it's separate. So you know, that's also a possibility, a common possibility and occurrence in today's world, especially here in this country, bro. With the divorce rate is huge. I mean, I know friends of mine that grew up with me or that I'm cool with even now, still keep in touch with them. Who's you know, their parents, they split after a while. And I know people. I dated girls who told me their parents split. And yeah, I mean, you know, it's just part of the deal, bro, part of life. But I mean, you can definitely change your person a little differently. And well, how he changes you, it's up to you, though. You know, you can also make it like make a positive a negative, or I'm sorry, a negative a positive. I mean, so you can still, you know, do what you got to do.
Exactly. I was actually just I was listening to you the entire time. I was just dropping resources as I went. So guys, just want to say, this is one that Layla Ozer, who's been on this podcast before, and I was just talking to yesterday. This is one of our resources in Montgomery County. It's it's Talia Medical Center, 82 Montgomery Avenue, 3314 Narberth, PA, Montgomery County. The number is 610-455-4254. You can reach out. If you want something that's actually online, because we are a Philadelphia-based podcast, but we do understand that people don't all live in Philadelphia.
Correct.
And not super close. So this is a big one, and it's rated 9.8 out of 10. And I always see, and I know people who have personally used it and had great results. BetterHelp.com. This can be a great online resource for mental health. They're rated very, very well for the Better Business Bureau. Another one in Philadelphia, and this is actually one I personally, when I worked with a nonprofit, actually worked with, CBH. It's just Community Behavioral Health. They have a 24/7 hotline, 1-888-545-2600, that you can reach people on as well. These are all sources that you can use for mental health, and obviously working with a licensed professional. George and I are not licensed psychologists, psychiatrists, or mental health professionals. So obviously, we always say if you are in need of significant actual help, we do recommend that you consult a licensed professional. So everything that's based off of this is just off our research or personal experiences with those around us. Always.
Good stuff, Steve. Good stuff. A lot of obviously, guys, important links here. So we show you guys some of our resources and people that we know that work with this kind of stuff. Mental health is very important, as is developmental psychology, but just psychology in general, to understand people, to understand if they have a problem or not, and to see how things can go from there. Because it sucks for somebody that maybe struggled a little as an adolescent and got older, and then their mind was somewhere else, and they, not saying it's crap, because their mind is not what it is, because they didn't get the right treatment, the right attention, possibly. You can go to the right doctors, the right people to care. So sometimes it happens, and again, this does tie a little, kind of intertwines a little with the developmental health and psychology and mental health, which we've talked about. We have 2 episodes with him already, and we had Layla. Shout out to Layla.
There's quite a few episodes. Quite a few.
Yeah, quite a few actually, yeah. But yeah, so that's that, and it's good to kind of put some stuff here for you guys to see, for those that are watching and maybe watching a little later. We had a couple people here and there, you know, checking out stuff. You know, people are actually saying, somebody just told me they're watching the show. Actually, I got a couple DMs, so people are watching the show. Sometimes I get DMs, sometimes people comment in here. As you guys know, you're always welcome to, you know, check us out and try to link in and actually jump in. Try to get a night to call in, possibly. We're going to work on that in the future. It's something we'll be talking about for a while. Yeah, but no, as far as Outgrowing the other part, bro, we'll talk about it another time. I mean, but just something I'll say about it. I think that kind of comes, like we talked about in the prom a little, with more with territory. The way your life goes and the way it takes you sometimes. Not everybody's for the scenario or for the same situation. You in one page, somebody's on the same page as you, and no, you know, there's no really no hard feelings enough. You can be still cool with that person, but you might go somewhere else, or they might not really hit you up anymore. You know, you just might grow a little distant. Nothing, you know, doesn't always have to be a fallout or like, oh, they cut ties. Sometimes,
yeah,
it just the way kind of things go. You know, it's like life goes somewhere else. You just go your separate ways. It could be you and another guy, it could be a female, it could be a friend, it could be a childhood friend, even it could be a guy you know for a while, and you still see him, you're cool, but yeah, just went your separate ways. Not really, you're not as tight as you once were, or as you once was. So I just think it comes with priorities and the growth.
If I can, I'll make a quick comment on it. Obviously, this could be a whole episode, and we could actually bring people off for it. But my quick comment on that, on outgrowing people, is I don't think you should ever feel ashamed for outgrowing people. I think it's actually a natural fact of life. Sometimes we just tend to hang on to people because they've been around us our entire life. Doesn't mean we can't be friends from afar. But if it's somebody that you feel is not on the same type of trajectory of your own life, I do believe that it is completely okay to, unless like they're toxic. So if they're toxic, there's no problem. I don't think there's ever an issue with, cutting people off for your own mental peace.
Facts.
But I'm saying in terms of like goals and stuff, sometimes they say you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you are surrounded by people who are not on the same trajectory, maybe they were at one point in their life, but you guys just have 2 different life paths. Sometimes we do outgrow people, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And you should not feel bad or ashamed for outgrowing people. The person could still be a good person, and maybe you keep them in your life from a distance. But a lot of times we tend to surround ourselves with like-minded individuals. So that's just my 2 cents on it. It's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, very good point. I just want to add on to that a little bit. I like how you said that. I think I couldn't even say it better myself, bro. Really good points. It always depends on you still keep it cordial. Like just because you fell apart a little bit, and not in a bad way, kind of like I just went your separate ways. Don't mean that you still let them do their thing. When you see him, It's all love. Because it's gonna be cool. Every now and then you might even see him and kind of possibly hang out, but not necessarily planned. Like you don't really spend much time with that person. But I just hung out with a friend of mine recently, and it's been a while. We talked a little the other night, we chilled, and I just kind of hit him up. And sometimes how it is, you just meet up with people. It's been a while. But if nothing really happened, you just kind of grew each other. You still keep it cool on IG, but you just, and maybe sometimes, or Facebook, you might keep up with them that way. You get the number again, you still have the number. It depends where you left off with that person and how much you're growing. Again, like you said, if they're on the trajectory you're on and there's nothing more in common there, then you got what you got to do it. No, there's no shame. You're just growing. People act like there's nothing written. You have no obligation to keep everybody you came up with all in the same umbrella. People do no thing. They separate. They go their own way. They move. People can move out of town sometimes and you lose track like that. But when you see him, it's all good. He can stitch you up. Again, thank God for social media. There is ways to connect people far away, but sometimes just a number, and you don't have to call. I got a lot of numbers, bro. I know a lot of people. Probably no more than 20,000 people, and I'm cool with a lot of them. I don't call them all the time. We don't even talk all the time. I might even text them for years all the time, but we still keep up. They know what I meant. They watch my stuff. I watch their stuff.
Just think about this. We can't. If say like 1,000 people, it's hard to keep in contact with every single person. I'm gonna be honest. You got a busy life. It's very difficult. Yeah. Obviously, that you understand the people that are important to you and those who are closest to you and the most priority, and maybe the most like-minded people to you.
Yeah. I feel you on that. That's exactly how it is, bro. It's like that is.
Yeah,
and I know
we only have so much time.
But we only have so much time to call them on the phone. A text helps, but it just depends. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's hard, It's not gonna be the same. So, but we'll talk about this more. Though we'll definitely probably set up an episode and bring some more examples. Possibly bring another person because in these kind of topics, like this particular one, it's good to have 3 kind of like perspectives and mindsets and opinions as well. So even though we talked about some stuff in the past, just me and you, Steve. So maybe we'll do another one of this, and we could do more on dynamics or family dynamics as well, since family dynamics ties into your parents' dynamics with your parents and everything else. Especially if you have like a big family, you have more than one sibling and the whole nine and everything else like that. So, but I think overall it's a good episode. I think we did a good time, we did a good job and we had a good time doing this. And it was kind of like a little therapeutic in a way. It was very relatable, very common as well. And
yeah, I was just talking to people about this over the weekend. So people were talking to me about it.
You're telling me, right?
That's me on it. So it's interesting. It's relatable. I actually give you props on the topic because this was actually your thought on the topic. So props to you, George. We did have to do a little bit of a change of reschedule, so it was cool to put together actually a decent episode on short notice. Like we said, we couldn't really get guests in here because it was so short notice, but therapeutic, and I'm sure we can all relate to this. So it's even if you had a securely and healthy attached relationship, it's all relatable.
It's relatable because we always see it. Even if you had a good one, your friend might have not a great life with his parents. I have a cousin. His mom, left him when she's young. Another friend of mine lost his parents at a young age, unfortunately. He lost his mom first, but his father passed away as well. And he's like probably around my age now, but I know him like a childhood friend. So, you know what though? Last year in August, I actually connected with a childhood friend. That was pretty cool. So kind of a friend of mine came to visit me from Italy, and we chilled here downtown a little. Yeah, I haven't seen him in 25 years, so it's actually kind of cool to see, an old friend I haven't seen. And again, come from different cultures, the dynamics will be different. But even this is another topic that, although we went 1 hour and 6 minutes right now, 19 seconds, we could talk about this for a while. I mean, like we could do more parts to this. It's actually a good topic to have, and maybe we can bring another person. We could look at part 2 eventually down the line, or mention a few things. So yeah, always a possibility. Leave the door open.
Absolutely.
But I'm pretty much good to go, bro. If you want to add anything else, man, I'll give you the floor. Otherwise, pretty much, you can kind of wrap it up. And I want to thank everybody watching. I want to thank people for subscribing. Those people that actually we invite and we add on to our show, to like to the viewers, to the our followers. We add them and accept the invitation, and they kind of help us grow the community. So I appreciate those people, all our friends that do watch us, as well as people that probably don't know us but have seen us, and people interact like short. Our boy short. Zach Round. He's another one. We never met him, but he actually sees us all the time, and we talk sometimes here. I actually did run into Regan. I was hanging out with Regan, bro, about a weekend ago. Was it not this weekend? The one before this. I actually hung out with Regan.
Nice, man. I'll have to catch up with him. Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I've been kind of.
It was like a Saturday ago. Yeah, it was so random. I seen him. Oh man, good to see you. This and that. We actually met like in person. It was different because I know him for a while, but in person it's different to hang out. And we actually hung out. He was in Gardendale. I'm telling you, bro, he knows a lot of my friends. So it's like it was kind of really like a very. It was very like kind of like not even. It was very common. Like it's kind of like because I already know him kind of, and I was like, these guys. Okay, makes sense. Some of his friends already know me. They call me like I'm like their bro basically. So it's kind of like and some Albanian guys that I know, like mutual friends. So it was a good night. It was actually a very fun night. I seen him a little. I kind of was chilling in his car for a second. We got to talk a little bit outside. They went back in the club. We didn't go in. We're like, we don't want to go in.
Yeah, Reagan's a really good dude. Really good dude.
Hangs out with the same crew as I do. Some of the same people in the same area. So kind of, you're in the community. But yeah.
Hey guys, it's near here nor there. But if you guys want to check out Reagan's episode, he was on. Reagan was on episode 121. It was 9 months ago. He came on. So Reagan's a good guy. It's Reagan Mema. Good guy. And I haven't seen Reagan in a long time. I had to reach out to him. Mm-hmm. We keep in contact regularly, but I haven't seen him in person in a while. Guys, I am excited for what we do have coming up. I always say that, but we always are, especially when we got guests.
It's always good stuff.
It's always great when we got guests coming in, because not that I don't like the episodes. It's just me and you, but obviously guests and other
it brings a little more animation to it. It brings some more perspective. It's more more guests can be more exciting. Also a topic, but today was a very good topic. I think it was definitely a needed one to talk about.
We have this one. We have After Hours Part 5 coming up next month, which should be interesting. We'll release more as we get closer to that because it's a little bit away. Kashim's coming on soon too, right, bro? We got Kashim coming on.
Kashim, it's going to be a big one. It's going to be a funny one. Yeah, it's going to be good one. Kashim, The Dream, possibly my boy Malik Joe.
Yeah.
I told a few friends of mine, my man, who's actually, I believe he's watching right now. One of my friends might be watching. My man, Dom Cook, he might be coming in as well, possibly. So we have a couple guys on the panel. And again, guys, we don't always do the sports ones, but there was big because the season's going on. With football being almost over, we'll see how things kind of go. But we'll bring you some more developing ones, some entertainment as well. So probably some stuff is going on around like the Hollywood entertainment news or whatever the case may be, and some more tips. Like today was more like this was not so much. I mean, this is like in a way it is tips because it's just kind of telling you experiences, but it's just like everyday stuff. It's not just tips. It's like occurrences that you might not have went through it, but somebody went through it. Let's be real. So I mean, we all have said something. So this is like almost like mandatory in some way. This is like natural stuff because everybody got parents for the most part. Everybody has the dynamics, unless you grew up in some kind of foster home. But then it's a whole totally different experience. So that could be if you know somebody who grew up in a foster home wants to come on the show. If anybody out there watches us that grew up in a foster home, come on and share your experiences.
If you're up to it, yeah, absolutely. You're always welcome here.
We definitely respect that, right, Steve?
Yeah,
we're very open to that.
Safe space. So,
cool, man. All right, well,
being said, I'm good to wrap
it up.
Just want to give a shout out to the people that were on last week. Obviously, Zach Round, Marius Raffaelli, Rich Mitchell, Rob LaVenture, and we also had. Was that it? Was it just us? Was it just us 6? I think it was. I don't think Dante made it on, and I don't think
Dante wasn't able to make it, unfortunately.
Layla didn't make it either. So yeah, it was 6 of us. But yeah,
we had a good
team. Shout out. Unfortunately for our Eagles, I don't even want to talk about it. They're gone.
KO, game over. Let's wait till next season.
Yeah.
Let's watch the Sixers and the Phillies when they start again around springish time.
We'll have some shorts that'll be chopping up for from that episode. If you go on YouTube soon, probably put them on Instagram too. But we already chopped up some content from that.
Yeah,
but
definitely. Yeah. Good work, Steve.
So
we'll have some guys and stuff.
That being said, guys, have a great weekend. Always be your best self. I love what Will Edelstein always says. He says, "Don't be an asshole and strive for a big." You ever see his things? He's like, "Don't be don't be an asshole." He's always like, "Be your best self," and don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole. Be your best self. While you smoke a J.
Yeah.
Ready to do, bro.
Get high. I think it's ending thing is always get high as a motherfucker.
Get high as a motherfucker. Oh yeah, it is.
Sounds
good, man. We gotta bring it back too sometime.
Will's a good guy. But no, guys. So end of this episode, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week for episode 159. We haven't really addressed that we've officially hit the 3-year mark of the podcast too in terms of episodes. So we'll actually celebrate that at a certain point too. So
we'll have to.
Yeah. It's 2024, guys. Blessings and much, much more in 2024. So, that's it, guys. Have a great night.
Be the best.
Great weekend. And we'll see you next week.
Good night. Good weekend, guys. All right, man. See you guys.